The reason Tesla's having so much trouble has nothing to do with Tesla's products or services or anything like that, to be quite frank. The main issue for Tesla is the macroeconomic environment, right? And what we're having to deal with interest rates. This is interest rates just over the past year, okay? And now at this point in time, even if you have great credit and you want to go buy a new car right now, you're probably looking at an interest rate of 7% plus, even with great credit. I mean, it was a year and a half ago, if you had great credit, you could get an auto loan in the 2s or 3s. And we're talking about, when you're talking about a 2 or 3 versus a 7, 8, 9, you're talking about a situation in which you're not going to be able to afford the vehicle you hope to afford, right? Or your payments are going to be a lot more, and people are just not going to be able to, basically get those vehicles they wanted to get, right? Now, to add insult to injury in regards to all this, right, is if folks are a little tighter on money because inflation's hit them over the last year, 2 years, that makes it even tougher, right? So, and never mind that, auto insurance has gone up considerably over this past, I would say, year or two as well, right? Auto insurance has skyrocketed. The amount of people that have complained to me recently about auto insurance, I know in real life, like it's a pretty large number, right? And so that's all going on simultaneously. That is not good for Tesla at all, right? At all. Now, on top of that, we've had a very low unemployment rate for years, right? You can say, well, what about during Rona? We flashed up there for a second. Okay, yeah, that didn't even count, okay? Government was not allowing people not even to pay rents and mortgages and all the stimulus money and paying everybody's bills and all that crap, okay? That wasn't even real. The truth is we've really had low unemployment, meaning like under 5% for like 8 years, truthfully, okay? And so the unemployment market only really gets worse from here. It doesn't get better. It only gets worse. We're at the peak right now. Like this is as good as it gets, man. This is as good as it gets when it comes to employment market and how easy it's been to find a job and get a job and stay employed and those sorts of things. It gets no better than this. So if we're talking about a situation in which unemployment rate starts to climb substantially, what do we know when a recession hits? What do we know about auto sales when unemployment starts to climb? Let's say unemployment went from 3.6% or 3.5%, wherever it's at right now, to 5.5%, which isn't even a super high number, by the way. 5.5% is still decent. When you start talking about 7 plus, that's when you start talking about high numbers. Well, I can tell you what happens to the automobile market. You sell a lot less vehicles, okay? Look back to the great financial crisis and look at the dip that happened in that whole situation, okay? And so that is not a good situation at all, obviously, if we're going to talk about a situation where unemployment starts to rise in any substantial way. This is as good as it gets, okay? So that's a problem in the short term, right? Now, what does the market really focus on? The market really... a lot of people say it's 6 months. Some people say the market's really focused over the next year. I think it's in between. I think it's like 9 months, kind of like having a baby, right? All these things come back into the stock market at the end of the day, right? And all these things kind of add up. The market, on average, really cares about the next 9 months. Now, if I'm telling you the interest rates are insanely high, the employment market's as good as it gets, right? Interest rates could be even going higher. That's what the Fed's talking about. We'll see what happens in regards to that, right? You could still be facing some cost pressures when it comes to your raw materials, and you're in what it seems like a price war, and one of your most important markets, China, is in a very bad spot right now. Oh boy, I mean, that doesn't bode well for the next 9 months, okay? And that's what the stock market cares about, is thinking about the next 9 months in regards to stocks, right? The only positive thing we really have going for us right now for Tesla, and then we'll get back into the negatives. You think I'm done going through all the negatives? I'm not, unfortunately. The only good thing we really have going for ourselves in the short term is Cybertruck. But the issue with Cybertruck, okay, and it's awesome getting to see some of these Cybertrucks, getting out there and hopefully getting delivered and whatnot. But the issue with Cybertruck, this is not going to be meaningful to revenue, certainly this year, right, for the remainder of the next 4 or 5 months. It will be at some point in 2024. Best case scenario is meaningful to revenue in the first quarter, but it could be potentially all the way up until the third quarter of 2024 until we see wow, Cybertruck's really starting to make a big difference in the numbers. So exciting to see that, but we're not going to see anything meaningful there in the short term, right?
I can tell you what could crash the market, okay? What could crash the market is you would need something, if you're talking about just 2023, okay? So we don't have many months left in this year, let's say 4+ months left, right? In order to crash this market, you would need a situation where something no one sees coming happens, okay? I don't know what that thing would be, but that's what you would need to have happen in order to crash the market this year. If you're talking about 2024, that's different. 2024, you could get the market to go down massively if the economy got hit bad. And let's say, major job losses started coming in. Then all of a sudden, everybody started worrying about corporate earnings and how deep's the recession going to be and all those sorts of things. You can get there in 24 by a situation like that. That doesn't seem super realistic for this year, especially we're running out of time here and with unemployment still being so low. Not super realistic for this year. And especially when you go into seasonal holiday season, there's actually a lot of hiring that goes on. So if anything, the economy should stay pretty good actually for the remainder of this year. The big question is next year. In my opinion, in regards to cash, right? The gentleman's obviously making his point there about cash being good, okay? So what do I think is an appropriate cash level right now? In my opinion, it makes sense to be, if you're light, probably like 15%, but I would put all the way up to like 30%-ish type cash right now. I think there's no problem with being pretty heavy cash right now. Last year, I felt very differently. Last year, I felt like, deploy as much money as possible pretty much, especially with growth stocks trading where they were trading. The Meta's under $100, Nvidia was down to $100 something, right? Tesla down to $100. Like, you were just getting some insane opportunities, so it made sense just to actually run cash low last year. This year I feel differently, especially right now, where we're at in the market. And so I think a higher cash level is a good thing to have. I do not think it's smart to be all cash. A lot of investors have kind of been that way for the last 12 months, and they've just missed out on a lot of opportunities out there. And now they need the market to go down in such an insane way just for those stocks to get back there. And even if the market does go down big, those stocks aren't going there. Meta's not going back to 88. Tesla's a crazy one. I won't talk about Tesla. Nvidia's not going back to 110. Nvidia has a higher probability going to 600 than it has to go on 110. Think about that for a moment, right? AMD's not going back to 55. So you run through a lot of these stocks, like, they're not even going to get, even a massive market drop, they're not even going to get remotely close to that. So I think it's dangerous to be all cash, but I think you should have a very healthy level of cash right now. Given the amount of uncertainties, the amount of black swan events that can happen, and given the risk to the economy, and given the Fed lags likely to kick in 2024, right? Potential 2025, but the more likely probability, right? Everything's on a probability scale in the stock market. So the more likely probability is the Fed lags kick in 24, right? And so I think it's a very intelligent time to have some cash around. Most times, you kind of want to run cash a little low because you're usually not able to get very good, returns on your cash, right? Savings accounts yielding 1%, 2%. Right now, you can get savings accounts yielding high 4s right now, right? You can get CD accounts yielding high 4s, close to 5. You can get treasuries yielding 5% plus, 3 months, 6 month, even 12 month, right? So that's my perspective in regards to cash. I think that it's a smart time to have